You're watching WAC Hoops Live, brought to you by WAC Hoops Digest.
What's up, everybody? Another episode. Well, I guess I should say, another episode of WAC Hoops Live here from Moody Coliseum in Abilene, Texas. Getting ready for the Abilene Christian women's basketball team to host UTRGV here in a 1 p.m. Central Time tip-off. Excited to be here at the newly renovated Moody Coliseum. I was here in September, and there were some things that weren't up yet, but it looks great, ready for a ball game. As you see, Chelsea and Daryl are with me, and we're going to talk some hoops. Busy day around the Western Athletic Conference. I believe we have 6 games on the women's side. We have 5 games on the men's side. So a lot of basketball to be played today, guys. How you doing?
Good. Chilly Saturday morning here in Southern California. We're headed for 65 degrees here in Riverside today.
Nice.
As TBU men's and women's teams are in action.
Nice. Chelsea, how's Phoenix today?
It's also pretty cold. I mean, I haven't gone out yet, but the high is supposed to be 59 today, which is like really cold for Phoenix. I'm excited to hopefully catch that CBU GCU women's game online, and then I'm going to the GCU men's game at the arena tonight. So a lot of exciting basketball today.
Let's talk a little bit about some big games right now. I'm looking at 2 on the men's side. Utah Valley at GCU, which Chelsea will be at tonight. And then you got the battle for first place between Seattle and Southern Utah. I wrote my preview on the airplane last night, which was kind of cool, so I was excited about that. But a couple big games on the men's side. On the women's side, what games stick out to you guys today? I know that there's one in Nacogdoches between UT Arlington and Stephen F. Austin. And then the Grand Canyon California Baptist game kind of sticks out to us too.
Yeah, those are the 2 definitely that stick out to me. That UTA Stephen F. Austin game, you have 2 teams that reached the NCAA tournament last year. UTA trying to right the ship after a rocky start to their first year in the WAC. Stephen F. Austin trying to stay a game behind Southern Utah, who is idle until, the Lady Jacks can get their shot at the T-Birds a little later on in the regular season. Not to mention a rematch with the Lopes later on in Nacogdoches too.
Chelsea, what do you think?
I'm excited for the CBU GCU game. I mean, I think it's an entirely different game now that Trinity San Antonio is playing pretty much regular minutes. And, considering she played, it was her first game back at GCU, and I think she ended up playing 2 minutes. It's a whole different team with her at the helm. And with Sydney Palma most likely still out, GCU is going to have to use some of their backup guard play to try to get the win. And, we got Olivia Lane, Tierra Brown, and Nadia Evans coming off of really great performances. Olivia Lane breaking the D1 rebounding record with 19, the D1 GCU record. So, a lot of players having a lot of great games. So hopefully they can continue that momentum into Riverside, but CBU is definitely hoping to get the upset.
Daryl, you're going to be there tonight at CBU Event Center, correct?
Yep, I am just outside one of the on-campus dining halls here. It's about 10:10 here, so we got 2 hours and almost 3 hours to tip off. But yeah, I will be at that 1 o'clock tip off. I'm excited for this one. The recent history between the Lancers and the Lopes says one side has swept the rivalry. CBU swept it in Molly Miller's first year. The Lopes took it all 3 last year. And the Lancers trying to right the ship and at least get a split of the regular season series this year, assuming the 2 teams don't see each other in Vegas.
Which, the last 2 years they've seen each other in Vegas, so we're going to play the numbers and say they are going to see each other in Vegas at some point. So, Daryl, you're going to be at the men's game tonight, that Tarleton at CBU men as well?
I didn't have that. I can stay for that one if you want, but I didn't actually ask for credentialing to that one.
You know what? The credential works for everything there, so you might as well just stay for both games. I mean, it's worth it, right? Like, I'm here for 2 games today here at Moody Coliseum. Like I said, UTRGV at ACU here at 1 p.m. tip-off, and then at 6 p.m. Central, we got ACU hosting UT Arlington. So, yeah, you might as well stay. Like, what better thing do you have to do on a Saturday in January? Let's just put it that way, right?
Yeah. I'll probably just watch the Eagles and the Giants before the men's game tips off then.
You need to just tell CBU people to just put that up on their video board inside the arena and just watch it there. I mean, I have to admit, when I was on the broadcast with Braden Bell when the Lancers were playing at San Diego, after the Lancers beat, the Toreros down there at Jenny Craig Pavilion, they put up the NCAA volleyball tournament because their team was playing, I think it was Stanford, I believe. And the fans actually stayed in the arena to watch it up on the video board, and they kept going crazy. And unfortunately, I believe the Toreros lost that match, if I remember. So, or did they win it?
They went into the Final Four. So
okay, so I mean, it was worth staying there for them, I guess. But anyways, so yeah, those are a couple of games that we're all going to be in attendance at. Let's talk about some other games around the league. We'll start with the women's side. Obviously, we got this UTRGV at Abilene Christian. You got Utah Valley at Sam Houston. We talked about the UTA Stephen F. Let's focus on that UTA Stephen F. Austin game for a minute. I mean, the Mavericks, Lady Mavs, were one of the favorites coming into their first season in the WAC. SFA, the defending champions. SFA is making noise as possibly an at-large bid if they don't win the WAC. So what are you looking for in that ball game? I mean, Mark Kellogg's crew, they're young, but they have some stars, veterans in Avery Brittingham and Ayanna Johnson and so forth. But they also got one of the best freshmen in Jordan Harrison at the point guard position. It's a very good squad going up against a UT Arlington squad that's coming off a big win. I believe it was over UTRGV. And, like, you want to see the Lady Mavs play a little bit better. So what are you guys looking for in that ball game?
That's the biggest thing I want to see is between those two teams that made the NCAA tournament last year, who is going to set the tone early in that game? Star Jacobs has been doing what she does. Kayla White has had a pretty good conference season so far for the Lady Mavs. Deshaw Benjamin. But let's face it, the Lady Mavs have been escaping. And a lot the games they've won a lot of games in the fourth quarter. A lot of late games. And against teams that we thought they'd be, able to blow out, and win comfortably against. Tarleton being one of them. They were in a dogfight in Stephenville the other night on Thursday. So I want to see if the Lady Mavs can find some rhythm and some consistency as we work our way into the second half of the season and work our way towards Vegas. For Mark Kellogg and crew, the question is this simple. Can they keep themselves in position one game back behind Southern Utah going into their rematch with GCU on, I believe it's February 11th, Chelsea in Nacogdoches? Does that sound about right?
It's something like that, yeah.
And Southern Utah is idle today, so Tracy Sanders and company can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show and see what kind of a lead they're going to be looking at when they make that trip to Phoenix on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of really exciting games today. I think, if UTA gets that win over SFA, that's huge, especially for the seeding. I mean, that would be a really big win for them. And that was a game that going into the season, everyone was really excited about, as everyone was seeing UTA as some real contenders. And I don't see why they can't make a WAC tournament run if they really get themselves together towards the end of this season. But for now, this is a big turning point game for them.
Let's go through the standings here right now. Southern Utah, obviously 6-0, sitting atop the WAC women's basketball standings. Grand Canyon 6-1, Stephen F. Austin 5-1, California Baptist 4-2. So that makes that game against Grand Canyon even bigger if they want to keep pace for that regular season title, at least moving up in those WAC resume seeding system. Let's keep going here. New Mexico or Utah Tech is 4-3. New Mexico State 4-3. Abilene Christian sitting at 3-3 right now. Sam Houston at 3-3 as well. UT Arlington at 3-4, and then you got UTRGV, Seattle, and UTRGV, Seattle, Tarleton, and Utah Valley all with one win. Tarleton and Utah Valley are both 1-6, while UTRGV and Seattle U are 1-5. You know, it's crazy when I look at the men's standings. It's almost the same exact thing on the men's side. There's a bunch of 6-1, 6-0 teams. Then there's those middle of the road, and then there's like 3 1-5 teams, and then you got that big goose egg at the bottom of the men's standings that I don't think anybody saw happening when this season started. But New Mexico State sits at 0-7. And I'm going to say it right now, you guys, and you can probably agree with me here, that tonight is probably their best shot at getting a win over the next 3 weeks or so when they take on Utah Tech at the Burns Arena, which isn't going to be easy for the Aggies because Utah Tech plays really well at Burns Arena. So, it's a wild time in Las Cruces. Let's put it that way. But Daryl, let's talk about your article. I didn't get it up yet because I was driving, but let's talk a little bit about some Women's Player of the Year candidates that you mentioned in this article that I will post later on WACHoopsDigest.com. You and Chelsea probably worked together on this.
Yeah.
You got a couple veterans and a couple freshmen on this list. Who's the one that maybe sticks out the most to both of you? I know that Chelsea might be a little biased here with her take, but I also think there's a couple players that are really the second name on that list, and only because I saw her in person last week in Cedar City, Sharita Daughtry from Southern Utah. She was almost average a triple-double last week in a pair of wins. Like, I don't know. It's a good list, you guys, and let's just talk about it and kind of what you see in all 5 of those names, and then, we can talk about those 2 honorable mentions that you also list.
All right. Chelsea, if you want to start with Nadia Evans, I'll take Sharita Daughtry.
Yeah, Chelsea's a GCU student, so she's got a little bias here with this pick.
I mean, I was just gonna look up her stats, so I didn't have it incorrect. But I mean, she's been playing really well. Nadia Evans is one of my favorite players in the conference. Also, just one of my favorite people. That whole team is so nice. But she's been playing really, really well. I mean, she missed one game due to an injury, and then she came back and scored 25.
That was the Utah Valley loss, right? That was the game that she missed, right?
Right. And so, that game definitely could have gone a different way had she been in. And also that was the game that Cindy Palma got injured. So there's a lot of variables with that game too. But yeah, Nadia Evans, I mean, I think she was not someone that anyone was really expecting to have the season that she's been having. I'm pulling up her stats now. She has been averaging the second most points on the team behind Olivia Lane with 10.8. She's even averaging 2.1 rebounds, which, considering she's a guard and she's only listed 5'6", I mean, that's pretty impressive. That comes down to her energy. And she had a ton of really clutch free throws in that overtime win against New Mexico State, as well as a couple of clutch rebounds and steals. So she's one of those players that gets really active in the fourth quarter and in overtime in that case, and is a big reason why GCU is able to win in some crunch time moments.
Daryl, what do you got for us?
Sharita Daughtry, just like you said, basically a triple-double. When the twin towers of Lizzie Williamson and Megan Jensen are having their off nights, it seems like Daughtry is their rock steady. And really a big reason why the T-Birds are at 6-0 right now is they sit on I believe this is their second off day of the campaign. So this should be their last off day between here and the finish line of the regular season race. But it seems like you want a big bucket. Tracy Sanders wants a big bucket in the fourth quarter. She puts the ball in Sharita's hands. Big assist. It's gonna funnel her way through Sharita to Megan Jensen or Lizzie Williamson. She's just had a hand in all of their fourth quarter hang-ons and comebacks.
Yeah, she was big in the fourth quarter in that win over Utah Tech on Thursday, to keep the T-Birds at 6-0. So, yeah, I like Sharita Daughtry. We'll talk about – you mentioned Megan Jensen. She's on your honorable mention list. Kind of breaking her game, the Utah Valley transfer. She's been really good for the T-Birds.
She's blossomed in Cedar City, and I think we knew it was in her. She just didn't get the opportunity really behind Josie Williams the last couple of years to really show what she could do with starters minutes. And now that she's gotten her opportunity, she's making the most of it. Chelsea, I don't know about you, but I don't think that was a name we thought we'd be saying as a player of the year candidate through 4 weeks of conference play when we took a look at things originally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. I think there were so many really great players, though. I'm trying to pull up that article I wrote in the beginning for my preseason all WAC picks, and I feel like maybe one player is on yours. I'm trying to line it up, but, I mean, it's been a crazy season so far for both the women and the men, but on the women's side, I don't think we expected the standings to be quite how they are right now, and I think if things were going as we were expecting, maybe my article would have a bit more accuracy there, but I agree with your picks. I mean, I think that there's a lot of players that have been having some seasons we weren't expecting. Grace Schmidt, I think, is one of the ones that's really surprised everyone, and she's just a freshman, so she the ceiling for her is so high, and she's a player that I really enjoyed watching when she was here with CBU.
Yeah, that you mentioned Grace Schmidt, definitely one of my favorite players to watch in the conference, having a really solid campaign that I'm not sure any of us thought we'd see from a freshman. The late Pat Summit used to say that the best thing about freshmen is that they become sophomores. And Grace is one of those players that is showing that I don't want this freshman season to end for her. I mean, she's been putting up double-digit scoring all the way through so far, except for the SFA game last Thursday. And she's just been impressive to watch. She gave UTA fits in that season opener or that conference opener New Year's week. 3 WAC Freshman of the Week awards. Chelsea probably should have had a fourth there. I think it was 2 weeks ago. But she's been very fun, exciting to watch. And in that same breath, Jordan Harrison from SFA, those two freshmen have been carrying the freshman class and are legitimate player of the year candidates.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. They've been really, really solid, and I don't think anyone really expects a freshman to be one of the best players in the WAC, but here we are with 2 of them.
Sorry, you guys. Joseph just walked behind me. He's been doing a lot of broadcasting during your school break at UTRGV, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. How was that going?
Well, it was amazing. So born and raised in Edinburgh. I've grown up with UTRGV, previously UTPA, their kids programs. My mother still teaches there, so I'm very familiar with it. So it's awesome to see UTRGV and Coach Lord and the coaching staff and the professionals here in Abilene. And of course, I like to say I do bleed the purple and white, but I'll always have a special place for the Vaqueros in my heart.
Sure. And if you don't know, Chelsea and Daryl, I know Joseph probably follows you on Twitter, but he is with ACU TV, and there's Lane Lord right there as he comes up, gives us the knuckles before the tip-off here in about, 40 minutes or so. Getting ready for a ball game. But, Joseph, tell us about what you think of UTRGV. You saw them, obviously, while you were down there, and what you're kind of looking for in this ball game at 1 p.m. today between the Wildcats and the Vaqueros.
I just think both of these programs are super well coached. And of course, I'm not just saying that because I know both of them, but really you see it in their play. They're fundamentally sound. They're poised. They know how to control the pace. But of course, both teams can be prone to turning the ball over. I think this game will come down to who's going to play more of a professional type of style, who's going to hit those transition threes, who's going to take care of the ball better. And of course, we have Maddie Miller. We have Ayanna Dorsey. We have Casey Kyle. We have Bella Earl. I mean, there's so many talented players. I think we're in for a treat this afternoon.
Should be a fun one. We got 3-3 ACU versus 1-5 UTRGV. Kind of as we get further into the season, kind of a must-win for the Vaqueros if they want to qualify for WAC Vegas, because obviously we know that only 12 teams qualify for WAC Vegas. Is there any specific maybe matchup you're looking for in this ballgame?
Well, I think it's the Battle of the Pain. I think Deborah Ogeyemi for UTRGV. I mean, I believe she was a JUCO champ a year ago. I mean, and she's just amazing, both inside and outside on both ends of the floor. Malia Langstaff, Maddie Miller, Addison Martin, the redshirt sophomore, who really last year she took that redshirt medical redshirt, and now she just sprouted out of nowhere. She just got interviewed by K-Texas Sports here in Abilene by our former ACU TV on-camera talent, Owen Simpson, who does a phenomenal phenomenal job for them. I think it's a battle of inside, and I think both of these teams, even though they do preach that three-point play and layups, hey, you can't go wrong with just a one paint touch and have one of your post players score down low.
There is one player. She's one of my favorites that I got to see in WAC Vegas last year, Janae Williams.
Yeah.
Lane Lord says he loves to have the ball in her hands, especially at certain moments in the game. What did you see when you were down there in Edinburgh?
So I got to witness her career high at the South Padre Island Classic. I believe it was the second game of the tournament. And what I love about her is, yes, she can score the basketball. I remember she hit a buzzer beater fadeaway. And I'm a big Kobe Bryant guy, so that kind of resonates with me big time. But I just love how she calm, again, controlling the pace, directing traffic. Because ACU, similar to how the men play, like to deny the wings, like to wreak havoc in the passing lanes. Janae Williams just, hey, girls, we just got to calm down. We just got to run our sets, run our actions, and that's what she brings to the Vaqueros team.
Chelsea, you may not like this, but Joseph is a Lakers fan.
Die hard.
Chelsea is a Suns fan, so we might have a little bit of conflict here. And Daryl's in California, so I don't know if he's a Laker fan or a Clipper fan or maybe just not a fan of the NBA.
I'm not a big NBA guy personally. I'm a college and high school guy myself. But Joseph, you talk about that game. That's a game where I look for a lot of points to be scored. I would not be surprised at all if the winning score in that game is something on the order of 75-70, 80-75, somewhere in that ballpark. And you talk about Maddie Miller. She had that 29-point outburst last week against UTA.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how she'll follow that one up.
Yeah, and she just scored 1,000 career points on Sunday against Utah Valley. We're going to be covering that in our ESPN Plus broadcast for ACU TV. Make sure you guys tune in on ESPN Plus. Over here to my left, we have Zach Carlisle, our SID and our play-by-play person, and one of my best friends in Sawyer Davis. So make sure to tune in on ESPN Plus, and they'll be covering the game. We have Mariah Williams, one of our newest sideline reporters, and of course, I'll be bouncing around as well, doing shows and just talking to people and enjoying some good basketball today.
Joseph, I'm glad I caught you. Glad I saw you walk by here and glad you joined us. Tell the fans where they can follow you on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at Joseph D. Chapa. That's for all my socials, Instagram, LinkedIn. I've been using LinkedIn a lot as a up-and-coming or aspiring journalist, so you can find me there at Joseph D. Chapa.
Awesome. We're going to take a 30-second break, and then we'll come back. We're back here from Moody Coliseum. I forgot to hit the unmute button on my mixer, so I apologize for that. But I'm telling you right now, in my next WAC Hoops Live, we may have a better commercial than those 30-second countdowns. I'm really excited about it. I got a meeting on Monday about it. So just stick with us because I'm really excited. If you follow my tweets, there's a certain commercial that shows up in every ESPN Plus broadcast that gets me really pumped. And so that might be on the broadcast on the next WAC Hoops Live. So I'm just saying, might be. Well, just pray for us, right? Anyways, you guys, let's finish up with this game that I'm about to watch here, ACU UTRGV. We talked to Joseph. He brought up some key players on both sides. We'll come back after this game and we'll do the men's because the men's games start later on this afternoon. I believe it's 4:30 is the early start for the UTRGV Sam Houston game, 4:30 Central. And we'll also have probably some recaps of some women's games when they start because you got a 1 p.m. tip-off here. You got 2 p.m. tip-off in Huntsville, 2 p.m. tip-off for the SFA UTA game, and a 3 p.m. tip-off Central Time at least for the GCU CBU game. So let's talk about this game right now. What are you looking for? Obviously, Lane Lord's squad is 1-5. They struggle. I believe they've lost. I'm looking at it here. They've lost 3 straight since they beat UT Arlington at UT Arlington. So, in ACU, the usual ACU Julie Goodenough squad has won. They're coming off a win at Utah Valley, a big win where they won by 21 over the Wolverines. So what are we looking for here this afternoon at Moody Coliseum?
I think we're looking for a high-scoring up-and-down game. You've got two of the conference's premier guards in Maddie Miller and Ayanna Dorsey. But Joseph mentioned it. When we think ACU and UTRGV, we think guards. But we neglect to mention two very talented post players. Like you said, Deborah Ogayemi has impressed. She gave UT Arlington fits in that win at the College Park Center in that second half. And Malia Langstaff, Addison Martin have really impressed. I've been really impressed with Addison Martin. I think she's slowly become one of my favorite posts to watch in the conference outside of, Grace Schmidt, Olivia Lane, and Evan Zars.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of overlooked talent on both of those teams. I think they're, right now they're kind of middle of the pack teams, but I think they're teams that could really give those top teams like GCU, SFA, and Southern Utah a lot of issues, especially if they meet in the tournament. I think they're teams that both of them really have players that can go off at any moment and really give some great performances to get some upsets. So I think that this is a huge game tonight to really see which of those teams has more potential to do just that in upsetting the bigger squads.
Listen, I didn't watch much UTRGV women's basketball last year until Las Vegas, and I'm telling you what, that was one of the funnest teams that I saw last year at the WAC tournament. Just the way they shot the ball. I mean, it was, they were on fire. And it started with that upset of SFA at the end of the regular season to end the Lady Jacks undefeated, run in WAC play. So they're a similar team. Like I said, Janae Williams is one name I'm keeping, one player I'm keeping an eye on today in this ball game. And then, like you said, Matt, I think all the talk is about Maddie Miller. We forget that Bella Earl is there too, and that she can do big things, whether it's in transition or she can knock down shots from the perimeter. I think that matchup, or those two players, are the players that I'm keeping an eye on in this ball game for Moody Coliseum. We're about 21 minutes from tip. Chelsea, Darrell, any last thoughts on the early slate of these women's games? And then we'll come back after this game and maybe wrap up some things from the women and preview some men's games later on. But any last thoughts, you two?
CBU, GCU, I want to see how the Lancers handle the Grand Canyon pressure. If they can keep the turnovers down to a minimum, they should have a pretty good shot against the Lopes at home. Jared Olson teams don't lose a lot at home. So that's kind of the big thing I'm looking for. And then I want to see how Grace Schmidt handles herself against a couple of upper-class posts in Evan Zars and Olivia Lane.
And when we're talking about men's basketball, with tonight with the GCU men, I'm excited to not been super consistent, but they've got Rick Harrison in career games. So, I think this is a big game for both Utah Valley and GCU. It's always an exciting matchup between the two. So it should be exciting, and it should be a very tense environment in the GCU arena.
Yeah, it's a wild Saturday. I'm excited. Both the men and the women's side, there's some big games. I believe there's two on each side. I think we mentioned that. You got UTA, Stephen F. Austin, Grand Canyon at CBU on the women's side. And then on the men's side, you got Utah Valley at Grand Canyon and Southern Utah at Seattle U for first place in the WAC standings. The other game I'm keeping an eye on, we'll come back to this later after this women's game this afternoon. New Mexico State at Utah Tech. Utah Tech is 1-5, I believe, in WAC play. And New Mexico State, we've talked about, they're 0-7. So here's the thing. A win by the Aggies makes them eligible for, at least puts them in that top 12 for WAC Vegas. A loss puts them basically almost 2 games behind in that, last qualifying spot for WAC Vegas. So pretty wild. Anyways, you guys, thanks for following. Subscribe to the WAC Hoops Digest YouTube channel so you don't miss these live streams. Next time you're on, give it a like, maybe comment, share what you may want us to talk about. But we'll be back later this afternoon with another WAC Hoops Live, kind of a post-game wrap-up and a pregame look at the men's games. And I don't know, is there a late women's game? There is a late women's game. New Mexico State at Seattle U, so we'll talk about that. For Daryl, for Chelsea, thanks for following, everybody, and enjoy your Saturday.
Be sure to follow WAC Hoops Digest on all our social media channels and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss an episode of WAC Hoops Live.